Well, here we were in the caravan park, and I tried to get a job, which should have been easy because I have lots of shorthand typing qualifications and could get an office job anywhere, but that was blocked. I couldn't get a job. And so we continued, and I continued with my regular morning meditations, and one day I was told that I had a job with nature. And I thought, well, this is a wonderful excuse to go for a walk and to lie in the sun. But when Peter saw the guidance, which I always shared with him, he said, well, maybe you can help with the garden. He was having a hard time growing vegetables in sand dunes without books not telling how to work these things in the north of Scotland. So I tuned in the next day, and I was told that everything in nature had an ensouling intelligence. That it was a planet or a cloud or a vegetable. And I was to attune to and harmonize with the essence of that intelligence. Well, I immediately thought, I can't do that, I don't know how to do it, and so on, because I sort of used to argue with my guidance at times. And I was told it won't be so difficult as you think. Just stay attuned to your God's self and it will work out. But I didn't understand at all how I could do it. Peter would say, of course, that would be easy, but I didn't see how it would be easy, because what would be intelligence of a vegetable? It's ridiculous. The word essence wasn't a bother with me, because I'd been attuning to my own inner essence for 10 years by then. But one day I was doing a meditation and I got in a stream of power when I felt I could do anything. So, now's the chance to try and tune into the intelligence of nature. So we were growing, I chose a vegetable we were trying to grow in the garden, which I loved eating, the garden pea. And so I tried to attune to what would be the essence of a garden pea. Well, I think the outer form of anything is an indication of the inner essence. I knew all about the outer form of a garden pea, the shape of the leaves and the stem, the color and the smell of the flower and the taste. So what was the essence of all? What was a pearl of all that into one thing? And I tried to tune into that vibration, and I got an immediate response to my astonishment, just as I got to when I attuned to the God within, which I put into words in the same way. And it had said that it had been going about its business, and I come straight to its awareness, which wasn't strange because I was really focusing on that. And it wished that human beings would go about their way with similar awareness, because we were all great beings of light, and we weren't using our capabilities. And said, I've got my meaning over, goodbye. And I think in that very first message, it was really what nature is still trying to tell us humans, that we are great beings and can work with them, attune with them, and be what we truly are. Well, I had no word in my vocabulary for this contact to which to accept the word angel. Although it wasn't to me an angel, I don't hear or see anything, but to me it was a force field, an energy field. And the word angel is so clobbered down with wings and harps and so on. So I'd heard of the Sanskrit word for angel, which is deva. So I used that because it was free. Now I'm going back to angel because, no, it's got all sorts of meanings attached to it. And I realized too that this energy this intelligent energy that I was attuning to was not from one little pea plant. It was from the soul level of the whole groups of all the peas on earth. It was the soul of the pea kingdom. And that as such it was a planetary being. And that really blew my mind, to thinking that I was communicating with an intelligence that was aware all over the earth at one and the same time. Well, anyway, when I shared this first message with Peter, he accepted it in beautiful faith, and gave me a long list of questions to ask the various vegetables of the garden, and kept me busy for years. And my own inner guidance kept urging me to communicate with this kingdom, to explore it more, because it wasn't just vegetables. But for the first few years it was mainly the vegetables, and then we started growing flowers, and it expanded and expanded, because the angels are God's messengers, the creators or builders of form, the archetypes of form for all over the planet, and as such are connected with everything. And everything that has its own uniqueness, even a human grouping, has an angel. And I'm still exploring those realms.
What are the I mean, in terms of the garden, I mean, you made this contact, and I'm going to get to you, Peter, in terms of just briefly of questions you asked and how it all unfolded. Yeah. We'll do a lot of that outside as well. But you saw the garden continue to improve, but there was no doubt about this contact, was there? And then some of the messages that came through they were about oneness. They were about all these things. This is a long time. This is what, 20 something years?
30 years ago.
It was 30 years ago. I mean, we were so far ahead. I mean, looking back at it now in retrospect, where we're at right now, in terms of the world finally being aware of itself and becoming more one, how do you see the importance of this connection?
This connection with the nature kingdom always brought me back to oneness. The angels are messengers of God, as I say, and they always went on and on and on about how we are part of each other and how this connection with humans and nature is a necessity. And at the time I didn't realize how appropriate that was for the state of the world, for the environmental faults that we were doing. I got one urgent message, which I got all the way through, from the large trees. Otherwise, most of the messages were talking about oneness, lifting me up into the oneness, sharing that. But the trees had an urgent message to say that of the necessity for large trees on the surface of the planet. And every time I tuned into one of the large trees, a repetition of that message in one way or the other. Of course, they would answer questions that we had about the growing of the garden, and to make suggestions. And in almost the very first day after this original message, I was aware of a force field that seemed to be in charge of the whole area, which I called the landscape angel. And the landscape angel became the intermediary for other denizens of the angelic kingdom, and also asking general questions about the soil, for example. And said at one point that they couldn't expect them, the angels, to do all the work in our garden. We were humans with hands and feet, and we had to do the work. And the best way to make this soil nourishing was by making compost heaps. And the landscape angel helped us all the way through about making the compost heap and what's to put in and when it was ready and that sort of thing.
So it was a continuous connection and step-by-step instructions in terms of...
Yes, and Peter would always have questions that I would take and to find answers for.
So give us how that exchange, I mean, how that came about. You brought the questions?
Yes, I had complete faith in what Dorothy was receiving, and I got answers that worked. And so when I encountered problems or a lack of knowledge, I would ask Dorothy, well, will you contact the lettuce David and find out why the lettuces are dying? And I got answers that made sense and worked. I put them into practice. So it was a constant going to Dorothy to get information from the Devas.
And as I had no gardening experience, in a sense, I couldn't put any gardening knowledge in, so it came sort of purely from the angelic realms.
Yes, and I didn't have very much gardening experience except having watched my father, and I'd read books all winter and then promptly forget all about what I'd read or couldn't find read, so I turned to the Devas all the time.
But we had no idea that this teamwork was making such an imprint until we visited neighboring gardens.
We had people coming to see this garden. We wondered, well, why are they coming? It's just an ordinary garden, until people on the site tried to grow Brussels sprouts, for example, like ours, which were several feet tall, and theirs would go like then. And then when we looked at other gardens around, we were surprised to see the vigor and the size and the vitality of our vegetables, and realized, well, something important is happening here.
And I think in the past, in esoteric circles and in every indigenous culture, they've had these connection with the nature beings.
Yeah.
But there hasn't been, since the Age of Reason, we've turfed it out in our Western civilization. And I think this is a way we can come back to it without seeing it as superstition, seeing the reality of it, how it works, how the beings actually do exist, and how actually humans can cooperate with them. And I think that's an important lesson at this time of the world.
Because in my travels around the world, I found all the indigenous people, the guardians of Mother Earth, they communicate with the nature spirits. They may see them in different forms and have different names, but in essence they're the same. And same thing with the devas.
At one point, did you ever sort of just sit down and say, I can't believe this is happening, and I can't believe that I'm part of this?
No, because when you do a thing step by step, and you just get used to it. I mean, that's what happened, and that's the way it was, and you just accept it because it happened and it works.
And we were too busy doing to really query and question it. It was action all the time.
And one last point on this. In the outside, since the inspiration of this and the publicizing of all this, there's been like the commercialization and the profiting and the mystification of angels and devas but yet this is a very ordinary sort of demystified sort of experience. I mean, what is your view on that? And how can it become a more ordinary experience?
Well, I get a bit upset when I see all this glamorization of angels and glamorization of me at one point. As an angel being supposed to be in chiffons or something, so I clump in my ordinary clothes and sort of everyone's expectation goes way down. Because ordinary people are here on this earth, and so are the angels. I mean, so are the devas. It is a working collaboration. It's always been here. We just haven't recognized it. And you can make it glamorous, but it isn't. It's practical. It's the way things work. It's the way this planet works. It always has been. But we just have not been aware of it.
But it was our work to demonstrate it. As I've said, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. There, it works. It was a demonstration. Cooperation with the kingdoms of nature. It works.
Last question for Dorothy about this. How can people integrate that into their own lives and into their own gardens and into their experiences with nature?
Well, as the Devas told me, love is the bridge to any kingdom, and gratitude. So if one loves what one's doing, one's energies are connected up with that, and you get a feedback. For example, after we'd been going for quite some time, we had a team of gardeners, and I was out of the garden. I was in the office and had been for 5 years or so. These team of gardeners came to me and asked me questions, and I said, no, you do it yourself. And they weren't sure, and I said, well, what do you feel about this? What do you feel? And they told me, and it was always right. I confirmed it. But their actual intuitions and feelings, because they loved their work. They were real loving landscape gardeners. They knew what to do. They probably wouldn't have called it attunement with nature, but they were attuned. And most of us, and many are. And that's the key. Love is the key to all these things.
What about the possibilities for the future? Now, right now we are in the process of. The Earth is a mess. I mean, we've got radioactivity. We're still exploding nuclear bombs. There's poison in the lakes. The trees are being cut down. There's buildings everywhere. We've got pollution in our homes. It seems almost for a younger person like me, like there's no hope. But how can this? Can we?
Well, first, the planet is making us aware of the pollution. We can't help but notice these things now. And of course, nothing will change until we change. We're the polluters. We have caused all this damage as humans. So we've got to change. We've got to stop the pollution. But we can also ask the help of the nature beings who don't see that we can't do it. They see our capabilities. They see that we are Christed beings. And they believe that we can change. We can turn and change and find the solutions using our minds and their help to all these problems. They don't give up. They don't believe it's the end.
Example, Sir George Trevelyan phoned us up one day to say there was a plan to put fluoride in their water. Would we please call upon the help of the angels, the devas, to prevent this from happening? It was prevented.
So there are specific things that can happen out of this cooperation. I mean, that was the original, and that was the excitement of the possibilities. Like the Nature Kingdom was saying, well, it's about time. And let's get to work.
Yes, it's almost as if they waited for many, many years for us to grow up, as if we were teenagers. And we can start to grow up and develop and work with them. And that's the way they see the future. They don't give timings. I've never known timings to come right anyway from the other side, shall we say.
And there's also their perception of humans as being, very powerful. This is something about that people have been put down to feel like they're...
Yes, they see that. They see that we are very powerful. And also, the angels live in a realm above polarity. They're not... They see the negativity, but they see that the value of the positive and negative and how it works towards wholeness. And they think that we can come to that understanding too.
So what are you doing now here in the community, and how have you seen the community change in the last 20, 30 years?
Well, no, we're changing all the time, actually. It's a constant change. To me, that's what life's all about. It's just change, change, change. And it's something I invoke all the time. I pray for change, because I want to change, I want to grow, I want to expand. And this is what's happening. I feel for myself at this time, I'm here to remind people that this is a spiritual community. It's not just education, it's not all these therapies that are going on. It's a spiritual community. And to bring them back all the time to that spirit, really. And I feel also I'm an anchor. I anchor the energies. Otherwise I probably wouldn't be here at all. But I am anchoring the Christ energies, the spiritual energies, and that's what I am, really.
How do you see some of the founding principles of this place integrating in people's daily lives here and then outside?
Well, I think that it's a lot of people that forget, that what they're doing needs to be done with love. And there again, I have to bring that in and remind them that whatever they're doing, no matter how ordinary, no matter how mundane, it needs to be done with love. And if it's not done with love, go away by yourself and really find out why you're not doing it with love. And then come back and do it with love. And I feel that's the consciousness that people need to take away from here. As they go out into the world, they need to take this consciousness of doing everything with love. And you're doing it to the glory of God. That's what it feels to me. If I do something and I do it with love, I'm doing it to the glory of God.
And then I think it seems like when that love is flowing, then just things happen.
Yes.
That's the beauty. How do you see that happening in the community on a day-to-day basis?
Oh, I think we forget at times. And I think a lot of people go around, and wonder why there isn't any joy. There isn't any joy because they're not doing things with love. Because when you're doing something with love, of course there's joy. Bound to be. And I think that's one of the things we're really changing now. And we're moving into more love, more joy, more sort of spontaneity and so on.
If you were to summarize the founding principles of this place, what would it be?
Love.
Can you
love, love, and more love. Somebody said in the other evening, it was one of the youngsters, Eileen, and it's love, love, and more love. Love, love, love. That's what it is. Because God is love.
Dorothy?
I thoroughly agree with all that. And a lot of things I've been learning lately is the power of that love. We say God is love. Now, God is this exploding universe that we're seeing through science at the moment. And love is just as great as that. It's just as vast as that. And we know so little of it. We know so little of the power of it. And as I grow older, or grow more experienced, shall we say, I realize the power of it. It can make anything happen. And it's appropriate in any situation. When nothing else works, that works. It seems at times a feeble word, and we misuse it so much. But it's as great as the universe is.
So in reality, if you were to get into sort of quantum physics and science, that love is like an energy, or
it's to me, it's the founding energy of all that. And as it's like the white light, which is split into all the colors. Only love is split into everything there is. light and dark are polar opposites, but love contains the dark. It contains everything. It embraces everything.
There's been a lot of criticism of the New Age. And it seems like the New Age, whatever this is grappling to try to allow love to flow through and to make all this work, but then all this other stuff gets in. How do you answer to that criticism?
Well, to say love is very simple, and people don't like. They like complication. We like to work through crystals or tarot cards or something. It seems that it employs more of oneself, but it'll all come back to that basic simplicity, which is the core of it all. All these are extensions of love and extensions of the vast creativity of God and of humans. And we've been given the free will to play around with this as we like. But we learn through our free will where we make our mistakes, and we come to the wanting to be one with that wholeness. It satisfies us as nothing else does. There's sort of a divine discontent in each one of us that's taking us towards that simplicity all the time.
So is there even the foundation of the community, I mean, as the sort of the cathedral of the New Age and is being attached to all this other business that's going on? I mean, how can you, is there a way for you to clear that up? I mean, to speak on that?
Everything should be part of the whole. Everything is part of the whole if it's done with love. Doesn't matter what you do or what your position is. And I think they're, even from a business point of view, they've been finding out that when you do things with harmony and so on, the lolly comes in better. Everything, the physical level, has not been included in spiritual teachings too much. Certainly not in the West. Now it's being included because the whole planet has to be included. Our bodies have to be included as they never have before. Personally, I've always ignored my body, but now I realize it's part of the whole, and it's got to be, has an equal part to play. So it's all coming down to the physical level as never before.